Welcome to Happy, Healthy, Whole, and Rich, where faith meets action and transformation is non negotiable. I'm Tina Brinkley Potts, and I believe now is the time to step boldly into your power, walk in divine wisdom, and claim the life you were meant to live. Each episode, I'll bring you real, unfiltered truth because this world needs leaders who. Welcome back to Happy, Healthy, Whole, and Rich. I'm Tina Brinkley Potts, and I want to remind you, I know who I play for, and so do you. We've spent a lot of days in this series with Marcus, and I told you at the start of day 6 that his numbers had grown, quadrupled actually, and that his peace hadn't grown one bit alongside them. I showed you that pattern through the law of attraction. Today, I want to go back to Marcus one more time because there's a piece of that same pattern I haven't fully explained yet. And I think today's law is the one that finally gives it language. Today's law is the law of perpetual transmutation of energy. I know that's a mouthful, so let me give you the plain version before we go any further. This law teaches that energy is never sitting still. It cannot be destroyed, and it cannot simply disappear. It can only change form, moving constantly from a lower expression into a higher one, or from a higher expression back down into a lower one, depending on what directs it. Nothing about your life is static, including the parts that feel stuck. What feels stuck is energy in motion, just moving in a shape you haven't consciously chosen yet. And once you see that, Marcus's story looks completely different than it did on day 6. I told you back on day 6 about the pattern I found when I went back through 18 months of records with Marcus. The transmission, the family request, the doctor visit he'd been putting off. Every time the income jumped, something arrived alongside it to absorb the jump. I called it a bag with holes. Today I want to give you the most recent version of it because it just happened, and it's almost too on the nose not to share. A few weeks ago, Marcus had another one of his best months. A booking that pushed him past his previous highest revenue mark for a single gig. 2 days later, and I mean 2 days later, the county mailed him a property tax bill. Not a small one, the kind that lands with real weight, that takes the exact margin that booking was supposed to create and folds it right back into the ground it came from. I want to be clear. This wasn't Marcus being irresponsible. Property taxes aren't optional, and they weren't a surprise built out of nowhere. They were an obligation that was always going to come due. But the timing is the part I want you to sit with. 48 hours of breathing room, and then the exact amount of air got pulled back out of the room, almost to the dollar. I sat with him after that bill arrived, and I asked him something I hadn't asked him this directly before. I said, Marcus, I want you to think back over the last 2 years with me, and let's just lay this out from end to end. Has there ever been a single month where a jump in income wasn't met by something that needed the exact amount of money, sometimes almost to the dollar? He got quiet for a long time, and he said, no, I don't think there has. That answer is the whole episode today. Because here's what struck me sitting across from him. It is statistically strange for the something to always cost almost exactly what the junk provided. If these were truly random, unconnected events, Bad luck, nothing more. You'd expect the amounts to be widely mismatched sometimes, like a $10,000 jump meeting a $400 expense, or a $2,000 jump meaning a $15,000 expense. Real randomness is messy and uneven. What Marcus had experienced for 2 straight years is neither messy or uneven. It is remarkably well matched, month after month, like a thermostat set to a very specific temperature that refuses to let the room warm up past a certain point, no matter how high you crank the heat. I pulled out a piece of paper that day, and I made him write the pattern down with me, side by side, because I wanted him to see it in his own handwriting instead of just hearing me describe it. On one side, the jump. On the other side, what met it. 2,500 to 4,000 a gig. It was the transmission. When we went from 6 to 8,000 a gig, it was a family request. When we crossed 10,000 for the first time, the doctor visit he had been postponing. And now, past his highest revenue per gig, property taxes, landing 48 hours after the confirmation email, in an amount that, when he did the subtraction, left him almost exactly where he started before that booking came in. 4 rows on a page, 4 different costumes, the same number showing up on both sides of the ledger every single time. Close enough that it couldn't be waved off as coincidence anymore. Not once he saw it laid out in his own hand. I don't think Marcus is manufacturing property tax bills any more than he manufactured the transmission failure. That's not what I'm telling you. What I'm telling you is that the energy behind that money was never actually stuck. It was never dormant, never absent, never failing to show up. The law of perpetual transmutation says it couldn't be, because energy doesn't sit still. It has been in constant motion this entire time. It's just been transmuting again and again into the same load channel. Obligation, emergency, catch up. Because that channel is worn smooth from 2 years of use, and the energy, like water, tends to keep flowing along whatever path has already been carved for it, until something consciously redirects it somewhere new. That's what I mean when I say the alarm keeps changing, but the fire stays the same. The transmission was the fire 2 summers ago. The family request was the fire last spring. The health scare was the fire after that. Property taxes are the fire this month. 4 different alarms, 1 fire. And until Marcus does something to redirect the channel that energy has been running through, the alarm will keep going off in a new outfit every time the income climbs high enough to trigger it. Because the energy was never missing. It was only ever moving toward the one channel that has been carved the deepest. Turn with me to Ecclesiastes 1:7. All the rivers run into the sea, yet the sea is not full until the place from whence the rivers came, that they return again. This verse for today, almost word for word, is a description of energy in motion, refusing to disappear, simply cycling from one form to another and back again. The water doesn't vanish when it reaches the sea. It returns by whatever path water returns by, to the place it came from, and then it runs again. Marcus's money had been doing exactly that. It arrives. It runs back out through whatever channel is carved and waiting. And then it arrives again and runs out again along the same route, because nothing has yet been done to cut a new channel for it to run through instead. I also want to bring you to Galatians 6:7. Be not deceived. God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. I don't want you to hear this verse as punishment, because that's not how I mean it. I want you to hear it as a description of energy conservation, a spiritual law that says energy doesn't just evaporate once it leaves your hands. What is sown continues, transforms, and eventually returns in a corresponding form. Marcus has been sowing for 2 years into a channel built on, I have to catch up. I have to brace for what's next. There's never quite enough. And that channel keeps reaping exactly what's been sown into it. Not because he's being punished, but because the energy sown there has nowhere else built to go yet. Let's define the law of perpetual transmutation of energy clearly, because I think it's the most hope-filled law in the whole 12 of the laws, even though on the surface, Marcus's story sounds discouraging. This law teaches that all energy, money included, because money is simply one physical expression of energy in motion, is constantly changing form. It never sits still and it never runs out, because energy by its nature cannot be destroyed, only transmuted from one shape into another. That means the very thing that feels like Marcus's curse, the money that never seems to stay, is proof of a much bigger truth. That energy behind the money was never absent. That it has been fully present and fully active this entire time. It just keeps transmuting downward into the same low expression over and over again, because no higher channel had yet been carved for it to move through instead. Here's why this matters so much. If the problem were scarcity, if there was genuinely wasn't enough energy, wasn't enough money, wasn't enough flow coming towards Marcus, then the fix would be complicated. You'd have to go find more energy from somewhere outside of him. But that's not Marcus's problem. And it was never his problem. 2 years of steadily climbing income proves the energy is there, moving, arriving, real. His actual problem is the channel problem, not the supply. The energy has been running faithfully into obligation and emergency because that is the deepest worn groove available to it. Change that groove, and the very same energy, not new energy, the same energy that's already been proving itself faithful for 2 years, will run somewhere else instead. This is where transmutation becomes genuinely different from the other laws we've covered. Attraction told us Marcus was matched with a climate. Vibration told us the belief underneath the climate. Polarity told us which end of the stick his hands has been on. But transmutation tells us something more mechanical and honestly more practical. The raw material has never been the issue. It's the direction. Just like water can be the exact same water, whether it's stagnant in a ditch or turning a mill wheel to grind grain. The difference isn't the water's worth or its abundance. It's the structure it's been given to move through. Marcus doesn't need more income to fix this. He's already proven, gig after gig, that more income is available to him. What he needs is a new structure, an intentional channel built before the next jump arrives, not after the tax bill lands, so that the same energy that is currently running straight into catch up has somewhere higher to run to instead. I want to give you something practical here, because I don't want to leave this only as a metaphysical idea floating above your actual bank account. What I told Marcus, sitting with him after that property tax bill, was this: stop waiting for the next jump to decide where the money goes after it lands. Build the channel now, before the next booking confirmation email even arrives. Decide in advance what percentage of every future increase is going somewhere the fire cannot reach. Savings, an escrow account for exactly this kind of obligation. Something structurally separate from the account the emergencies know how to find. That's not a magic fix, and I told him that plainly. But it is the beginning of carving a second channel next to the deep one that's already there, so that the energy, which was never going to stop moving, finally has somewhere new to run. That's the empowering flip side of everything I told you today. Marcus is not short on energy. He has never once been short on energy. 2 straight years of rising income is the loudest possible proof of that. He is short on structure, and structure, unlike energy, is something you can build on purpose, starting today, with the very next dollar that comes in. I want you to sit with a pen in your hand for this part. Don't just listen, right? Number 1, where in my own life does the fire keep changing costume? But the fire itself never actually goes out. Can I trace it back to one worn channel my energy keeps running into? Number 2, Ecclesiastes 1:7 describes rivers running to the sea and returning again. What is the channel my own resources have been running through again and again without my ever consciously choosing it? Number 3, if my problem has never actually been a lack of energy or income, if the proof of my own growth over time shows the energy is real and already flowing, what does that tell me about where I've been misplacing my effort? Number 4, what structure could I build today before my next increase arrives so that the money isn't left to default into whatever channel is already carved the deepest? Number 5, Galatians 6:7 says, whatsoever a man sows, he reaps. What have I been sowing into unconsciously that I would like to consciously redirect starting this week? Right until something uncomfortable comes up. That discomfort is usually where the real work is. Here's what I want to leave you with. You've never been short on energy. Whatever has felt like scarcity in your life, the money that never stays, the relief that never lands, the fire alarm that keeps ringing in a new outfit, that was never proof of absence. It was proof of motion, running down the only channel that's ever been carved for it. Energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be redirected. And that means the very thing you've been calling your curse might actually be the clearest evidence you have that the power was there all along, just waiting for you to finally build a better place for it to go. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay whole, and stay rich. And understanding that this is all you. So it's time to do right by you. If this episode is stirring something in you, do me a favor. Share it with someone. Let's help someone rewrite the pact they have unconsciously made with lack. I'll see you tomorrow. Same time, same truth. If this message spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, live it, and let's grow together. Head over to happyhealthywholerich.com for more powerful teachings and join the movement. Remember, your breakthrough is waiting. You have to show up. Until the next time, stay happy, healthy, whole.